Good morning. This is Pamela Bluewater for J&S Biblical Productions, November 24th, 2018. On this fine snow-covered day, we are going to take up a subject of seeking peace around us in a world filled with bad news every day: cheating, lying, tax evasion, murder, and bank fraud. It was one of Jesus' disciples, Peter, who wrote to the Christians in the northern part of Asia Minor about how they can live in this sinful world and have hope for the future. We have an unusual guest today who found joy and peace, which illustrates 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 11. Welcome, minister in training and ex-convict Patrick DePone.
Pleasure, thank you.
It's good to have you here. So I understand you recently were released from federal prison in Washington, D.C. and went straight to the seminary in Virginia to train to be a minister. Yeah. That's quite a contrast.
Yeah,
what got into you?
Well, when I was in prison in solitary confinement, I read the Bible every day, and I was mostly inspired by the writings of Peter, the apostle. He says in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 11, it's right here, "Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it."
Good. Let's get back to how you became a resident in federal prison.
Oh, well, that's easy to explain. When I got out of college with my degree in political science, I decided that success could be found in the world of politics. So I ended up following in the footsteps of my mentor at the time, who was Senator Boris Gulacki. And from him, I learned how to commit bank fraud, how to launder money from foreign banks, and tax evasion. Well, he eventually was caught and arrested and put in prison for life. I was able to get a plea deal with the government prosecutors, so I only got 10 years in prison.
So then it was in prison that you decided to become a minister?
That's right. You know, and again, I was so moved by the writings of the Apostle Peter. When he speaks to the Christians, he basically says, joy comes from peace. You know, if we live our lives committing crimes against humanity and cheating on taxes, we'll never really get to know the joy of our expensive purchases, because we'll be constantly wondering, will I be found out? And there'll be that question constantly. We'll be in this state of worrying and wondering, you know, is the FBI going to find out what I've done? Is my house going to be raided? Are people going to find out what I've done? And that's a miserable life, having to constantly look over your shoulder and worry about being found out.
Yeah, I think I got it. Now, tell me why they let you out.
Well, I was up for parole, and I told the parole board that when I got out of prison, I was going to join the ministry and seek peace with God and Jesus. I actually persuaded all my fellow inmates to read the Bible every day.
I'm the receptionist here at J&S. I'm a little skeptical of your story about leaving the world of politics, where you can get rich quick and buy a private plane and get away on a faraway island.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But understand that in the world of politics, it's a culture of corruption. It's basically expected that you cover up your crimes by blaming somebody else or the other political party. And if I rat out my fellow politician for doing something under the table or paying someone off, you're considered a rat. Or in the world of organized crime, if you don't tell the truth to the Justice Department, you're considered a stand-up guy. Sooner or later, the crooks in the public office they're going to be ousted, just like Nixon was. You know, he says, "I'm not a crook, I'm not a crook." Well, a few months later, he was gone.
But what if I want to live like the Kardashians and have a $2 million engagement ring?
Well, don't think like that. Think peace. Just take a look at these photos, tranquil snow across the landscapes, and live a God-like life.
All right, but that means that you have to live honestly and an ethical lifestyle and love your neighbor. That is tough.
Well, yes, Ms. Sedgway, but as Mr. DePone said or suggested, if you are going to live in a life backed by God, you may be required to take risks for God. Mr. DePone, you did make a good argument for living a God-approved life, and I hope you will be successful with whatever church you decide to go with. We should all read the writings of Peter, who goes on to tell the Christians how they can live as Christians in this sinful world and have hope for the future. This is Pamela Bluewater for J&S Biblical Productions saying good morning.
What are your thoughts on today's story? We'd like to know. So, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel, J&S Authentic Biblical Productions. Whether it's the Word of God through parables, true stories illustrating parables, or true stories in the life of Jesus Christ with commentary, you can see them all by subscribing to the most comprehensive collection of videos of biblical stories for you and your family. Have a blessed day.